Hello, my friends. This is Wake Angel 2001 coming at you with the awesomest thing that has ever existed. It is the Sonic X DC crossover set. This is the multi-pack called Power vs. Speed. It comes with what I'm assuming is an original Darkseid figure, accompanied by Green Lantern Silver, Flash Sonic, and Bat Shadow. Bat Shadow in particular is an exclusive variant with a light up chest feature. We'll get into that a little bit closer later on. And as far as I'm aware, this is the earliest opportunity to actually get Shadow as a figure because he is actually going to be in the second wave. So theoretically, you could get single-carded versions of Sonic and Silver right now, but you wouldn't be able to get Shadow until the next wave comes out. Speaking of the first wave, here is the Wonder Woman Amy Rose to accompany it, and holy crap, that card art, man! If I had known that the card art would go this hard, then I absolutely would have pre-ordered the individual card versions of Sonic and Silver, even though I knew I was getting the multi-pack. As you can see from the back of the packaging, you can see the other figures that are available in this wave, consisting only of Sonic and Silver. So that kind of fills my my theory that Superman Knuckles, Cyborg Tails, and the regular version of Bat Shadow won't be coming out until the next wave. So yes, just for some quick context, this is of course based off of the official DC and Sonic crossover comic, and you can see we're gonna get this guy, we're gonna get this guy, we got a full cast of 6, not just 4. So yeah, I haven't seen the second wave up for pre-order or anything yet, so we're all waiting on that. So let's dig into some of these things and actually see how these figures are. There isn't anything inherently too special on the back of the box, except for the fact that it says that Shadow Batman is light up in like 6 different languages. 5 different languages. But although the drawn artwork on the side looks really, really good. I absolutely love the way these characters look all drawn up in the DC costumes. And Darkseid is just Darkseid, but it's not like Darkseid fused himself with Dr. Eggman or anything in the comic. Yeah, look at that. That just looks really good. And I also kind of find it funny that it's a Power versus Speed pack when we all know that Silver is not exactly known for his speed. And Batman's not known for speed either. Sonic and Flash are the ones known for speed. I mean, yes, Shadow is known to match Sonic's speed, but Silver has his psychokinetic abilities, Alright, so that is my review of the packaging. Let's get it open so we can talk about the figures. Since Amy is the only single carded figure that I have, I wanted to talk about her first. Am I getting glare? Let me turn this extra light off. So, yeah, this is Amy. She's pretty rizzed up in the Wonder Woman outfit. Like I said, the card art looks pretty spectacular. The back of the box boasts 22 points of supposed articulation, and this really nice blurb. In the heat of battle, Sonic the Hedgehog and his friends are blasted across dimensions into the world of the Justice League. While the DC superheroes fight to save the multiverse, Sonic and his friends don their costumes in an attempt to maintain order in an unfamiliar world. Yeah, so it's not specifically about Wonder Woman and Amy Rose, but basically what the comic book itself is about. Now, like I said, this card art is epic, so we are not going to be peeling it off the card. We are going to be carefully slicing that bubble off so I can save that for later. So yeah, that card art, once you get the figure off, you can see this really nice picture of the Hall of Justice, and a little bit of a better appreciation of the characters. You got Wonder Woman standing over Amy Rose, Themyscira in the background. Yeah, very nice card art. But now those figures, looking at them, they scale really well with each other. Even Darkseid. All right, let's get one thing straight. Check out Amy. She is a little bit shorter than everyone else, which is how it should be. Amy is not taller than everyone, or rather exactly the same height, which makes her head look overinflated. Like, hooray! We have a properly scaled Amy for once. And Darkseid, he is an impressive 7 inches tall, which, you know, if Sonic and the gang were this height, that actually does feel like the height that a normal person should be. Of course, it's still kind of undersized for Darkseid because Darkseid is not a normal heighted man. He is like a giant, but you know what? I'm going to call it as a win. If the Dr. Eggman figure was that height, that would be fantastic. Would they make a 7-inch tall Eggman to go with a 5-inch tall Sonic line? It remains to be seen, but I would like to see that. And the way these figures are built is almost identical to the movie Sonic line. So we are actually seeing the closest thing we have to that 5-inch scaled, super articulated movie line applied to regular versions of the characters. Of course, they're all cosplaying as DC superheroes, but you know, it's the closest thing we're going to get for now. And I think I already saw someone take like the Flash Sonic and customize it into a regular Sonic figure. So that's kind of amusing. But let us now talk about the figures one at a time. I'll try to be a little brief on certain points because, you know, I don't want to get too redundant. So yeah, let's go ahead and cut to this one person standing on the stage by themselves. Alright, I wanted to start with Darkseid because this is the one that I have the least experience with. I never had a Darkseid action figure before, and I only have a few DC superhero figures overall. Now, this is where I'm going to do something that people on the internet don't normally do. I'm going to admit to my ignorance and ask the audience for genuine information. Is this an existing Darkseid figure that Jakks Pacific has licensed, or is it an original mold that they made? I genuinely do not know. What I do know is that it's a pretty good rendition of the guy. Unfortunately, it looks like I have a little bit of a paint scrape on the center of his jewel. Although I guess the way it catches the light, it just looks more like intentional shine, so I guess I can forgive that. And the sculpting seems a little bit soft around his face, but it's still pretty good in there. You can see all the individual wrinkles on his cheeks and his nose. His teeth are picked out and there's no overspray. And they even got the shining red of his eyes. Although I feel like, I don't know, like, I don't know if there's a way to put light piping on a figure like this, but it would have been cool if you could do that to imitate the Omega Beams. His costume has all the details on every side. You can see every groove with painted in lines. His skirts are soft material so they don't impede the legs' movements. And you know, like, I feel like there should be some extra paint detailing on his boots, but I honestly, like, I think this is pretty much accurate to how Darkseid actually looks, so it's not like I can really complain about that part. Articulation, head is able to swivel around. I think it's on a ball joint, but it's really restricted, so it's basically a swivel. Shoulders can move all the way out, and there is a butterfly hinge, but there's not really a lot of range on that butterfly hinge. Bicep swivel, double jointed elbow, gets a pretty deep bend because of it. Wrist swivel and wrist hinge. I like how one of his hands is in a gesticulating pose while the other one is in a fist, so you can have him punch or you can have him pontificate. Actually, hold on just a moment. It all starts with this. A gem containing the ultimate power. Yeah, that is not any kind of official Chaos Emerald. It is a craft store gem that you can pick up at any craft store. And yeah, it kind of fits perfectly in there as a Chaos Emerald for this particular scale. That's epic. Alright, back to the articulation breakdown. Alright, he has torso movement. He has both an ab crunch and a waist rotation. Hips are... It's just a basic ball joint in there, but they can come about this close together, go about that far apart. He can kick forward. He can kick back somewhat. His knees are double jointed as well. Get a nice solid rising knee out of that. There is a boot swivel, which is mostly blended into his actual calf. Then he has hinges on the feet and rotation at the feet. So you got yourself a very well articulated, very posable Darkseid figure that can pretty much do whatever you would want him to do in his battle against the forces of good. So yes, this is a very good Darkseid figure. It's my very first Darkseid figure ever. And yeah, I guess now it's time for me to talk about characters that me and my audience have much more attachment to. Okay, here is our properly scaled Amy Rose with movie figure articulation. So I'm gonna do her because she has the same posability that Sonic and Silver do. So I don't really need to repeat this every time. She has a ball joint in the head, although like with Darkseid, it's mostly serviceable as a swivel. She has a butterfly joint in the shoulder, which gets more range than the Darkseid figures does, with a universally jointed arm attached to that butterfly joint. There is a bicep swivel, a little bit spinning neat because it moves at both the shoulder and at the elbow, thanks to the way the joints are made. Her elbow is single jointed, but it almost looks like a Figma joint, so you get a pretty deep bend out of it. They put strategic cuts into the arm to allow for that. And she has a wrist swivel, and she also has a wrist hinge, although the wrist hinge is really tight and it doesn't have that much range, partially because of like just how big these characters' hands are in relation to everything else. And they have opening and closing hands, which make really good fists, but it looks kind of weird that it's open. I kind of wish that the figure had like a Pico hammer, because in the comic book she had her Pico hammer with like the Wonder Woman emblem on it. And come on, that couldn't have been beyond the reach of this line's budget, could it have? It's a freaking hammer. Like, just repurpose the one from the 4-inch figure and just give it a slight paint job. She has a ball joint in her waist, which allows for some swivel movement. I think this is the first time I've ever seen an Amy Rose with a proper waist joint. I don't think any of the Amy's from the Sonic Prime line had a waist joint, so that would be the first. And she has a ball joint in the hips, which allows for a wide range of movement, a thigh swivel, a deep knee bend, and her ankles move and they pivot. So just like with the other figures, just like with Darkseid, she's superposable and has lots of range in those joints, so you can absolutely get her doing some Wonder Woman stuff. You can even do like the whole putting the bracers up to block bullets and things like that. So yeah, very good Wonder Woman cosplay Amy. And this is where I have to bring in a little bit of negative criticism, which is going to be mirrored across some of the other figures. The figure has almost too much articulation. Like, it's great that this figure has so many joints and is so posable, but with so many joints, you have that much more risk of failure, as some of the joints feel a little bit too loose, especially her ab crunch. Like, that's a really loose ball joint she has going on in there. So, like, sometimes you feel like you can have them in a pose, but then they start to slump from the weight of their heads. It's actually the least notable in Amy, because even when her joints are a little loose, the figure itself, being the smallest and with the smallest head, is actually not overweighed by its own its own structure and build. So let's get into the figure that probably everyone's gonna want from this line more than anything else: Sonic Flash. Oh wow, this thing looks pretty darn amazing. Emphasis on looks. Yeah, like, Sonic has the biggest head out of anything, and with his spines going all the way back, the head feels like it's one giant solid piece of plastic, which is bad. Making the head a giant solid piece of plastic makes it very heavy. They should have made it hollow like they did with the Sonic Prime figures. The Sonic had a hollow plastic head, and it totally made it so that that head did not weigh the figure down. In this case, like look at that. His ab crunch is so weak that it's not even a crunch. It's more like, look at my back arch. This joint would have been better off not existing, because the figure literally can't really use it. He just wants to slump back from the weight of his own head. The only way you're going to get any kind of use out of that is if his head is off to the side. Like I said, I'm not going to go too into the articulation breakdown because they all have the same articulation. Although Sonic's butterfly joint isn't quite as pronounced as Amy's. Although it is deeply recessed in there so it doesn't break the sculpt of the thing. The Flash emblem on his chest is actually sculpted in there. In fact, all these lines that are painted on the costume are sculpted in. So like they didn't just paint the figure. Like all these lines are totally part of the sculpt, not just the paint job, and that is really cool. Hips are on ball joints, so like they have lots of range though, even though they're ball joints. So you can totally get a good running pose out of him. Remember, like this is him as the Flash, so he's gonna do like that kind of. You see, like that. Look at that. That is the big issue I have with this figure. I'm gonna see if I can like tighten that up because holy crap, that is floppy. I mean, none of his other joints are floppy at all. Actually, like his knees are fine, his ankles are fine, the head's fine. It's that ab crunch, and I can't tell. I can't tell if it's just like really badly made. Like, you know what? I would very well. I very well just might glue it. I would legitimately just completely sacrifice this useless ab crunch joint entirely just to have a more stable torso. This should not have been a ball joint. This should have been a simple swivel cut. I'm going to say that. That is a legitimate only flaw of this figure. Well, yeah, two flaws. One, head is too solid, makes the figure top heavy. Two, ab crunch is very floppy. I'm tempted to, if I find the single carded figure, I will buy the single carded figure now just to see if it still has that flaw with the ab crunch. Yeah, just gonna throw that out there. But yes, one weak ab crunch joint aside, everything else in this figure is really great. It's just such a fantastic figure. I absolutely love seeing Sonic in the Flash's costume. It's great. And I really just wish, man, that loose ab joint is such a buzzkill, because otherwise this figure is so epic. Like they took the greatest thing that ever existed and made it just a little bit not awesome because of one bad joint, but it had to be the joint that's literally in the middle of the figure. Hey, post-recording Wake Angel 2001 here. I just wanted to point out that after I filmed that little segment with Sonic, I pulled apart the waist joint and found this itty-bitty little mushroom cap with this teeny tiny little ball joint. I don't know how they thought that this tiny little joint was going to support the weight of that massive Sonic head, because there's no way this thing has enough surface area to generate the friction necessary to be a functioning waist and ab crunch joint. It just isn't. But with a tiny bit of brush on crazy glue, and of course rigorously moving it to make sure I didn't accidentally seal the joint, it was made adequately frictionable. So you'll see later on. Just saying, like, this joint is just way too small to hold the friction that's necessary. They should have used a bigger ball for this kind of thing. And now we have the Green Lantern Silver. Full confession, the Flash has always been my favorite DC superhero, but if I'm being completely honest with myself, the Green Lantern has always been a very close second. I just really love the concept behind the Green Lanterns. I mean, it's a core. Like, out of all the superpowers you can get in the DC universe, the Lanterns always felt the most like, the kind of wish fulfillment thing, the thing that anybody could be. Like, if you were just a good enough person and had a strong enough sense of willpower, then you too could just be chosen to be a Green Lantern. Like, there's so many characters that have been Green Lanterns. In the crossover special, it was specifically the Jon Stewart one, but we've had so many others, like Kyle Rayner, Hal Jordan, Guy Gardner. There's just been so many Green Lanterns over the years, and like you just love to see how different people handle this level of power and responsibility. Of course, like the Sonic figure, they spared no details. Like, that lantern emblem is indeed sculpted onto the chest. It has relief. The power ring itself, look at that. All those details are sculpted onto his hand. Even the mask, it overrides the black eyeliner that he normally has, or are those just dark circles because of the immense amounts of stress he has coming from a post-apocalyptic future? I don't know. But look, even here, they could have gotten away with a little bit of green paint on this arm, but even that is a sculpted in detail. I absolutely love that they went through all this effort to make this like, no, we aren't just painting a pre-existing buck, which we're going to use to make 5-inch Sonic figures later on the line. These are actual sculpted parts. Like, these are made for this figure so it can shine and be the best that it can be. And I massively respect Jakks Pacific for that. They did not cut corners. And I don't know if it's because his head is lighter, because it is a little bit smaller, but his ab crunch actually does work. Like, it doesn't just slump backwards like the Flash Sonic figures did. Oh, speaking of Flash Sonic, in between takes, I used a little bit of crazy glue to fix that ball joint, so now he has a properly functioning waist swivel and ab crunch. So, like, he's not always arching his back. Like, that's how Sonic was intended to be. So, yes, like, if your Sonic has a floppy waist joint, just know that it is very easy to fix. A little bit of crazy glue in the ball, keep moving it around so that it hardens without sticking the joint in place, and there you go. But yes, like, every detail is hand sculpted, and unlike the 4-inch figure, he is not fat. So he actually has the physique that Silver should have. Yes, so like I said, the details are amazing. The Green Lantern costume is actually relatively simple. Like, there's no fine details on the feet. I mean, in all fairness, I don't know how well this is showing up because it's bright yellow, but if you look, these aren't Sonic's regular shoes. Like, you can actually see, like, there's still, like, front, back, and stripe, but the stripe is, like, differentiated with lightning. Yeah, you can see, like, it has, like, a lightning effect going on. So yeah, like, even though it's just one yellow blob, they still put that amount of sculpted detail in because they care that much about the details. Although there, aside from, like, you know, the sole, there's no such detail on the Green Lantern boot. But you know what? That's by design. The Green Lantern boot doesn't have that. Although Mold Flash, I've never really thought about Mold Flash before, but I guess because there's no detailing on the boots aside from being boots, like, the tiny bits of Mold Flash really do show. But, you know, aside from that, pretty awesome figure. Like I said, I absolutely love Green Lantern, and I think that Silver looks amazing in this costume. This is an amazing Silver figure, and it just looks great. And last but certainly not least, we have Bat Shadow. Now, this is the one that's going to have the giant asterisk because it is technically a gimmick figure. Just a quick side-by-side comparison, we can see he is much more broad-chested than Sonic is. This isn't because Shadow is just a really beefy guy. In fact, I think this would actually be the perfect torso piece to make Knuckles. But it is because it has to house a battery compartment for his light-up gimmick. Yes. I don't know if that's like some kind of bat homing signal or if it's just his chaos energy shining out through the bat costume. But yes, he does have that light up thing. If you look in his back, you can see the screw hole where you're supposed to replace the batteries. And because of that, he does not have butterfly joints or a waist swivel. So this is actually one of the least articulated ones, and because the chest is so broad, his arms can't go down as far on his sides as the other characters can. So if you want to have him with a calm stance with his arms on his side, he's actually going to be not well suited for that. Just for comparison, you can see how Sonic can get his arm all the way down, whereas this guy, it kind of sticks out. Kind of reminds me of the 4-inch figure in that regard. But everything else is still there. He has a nice swiveling head. He's not quite so top heavy. I guess because he doesn't have a waist joint, it doesn't have that sense of floppiness that the Flash Sonic had. And the joints that he does have, he still has universal shoulders, a bicep swivel, gets that same nice deep elbow bend. Wrists still move, they still hinge, they still have opening fingers. although it does look weird when you open the hand all the way. Ball jointed hips with a nice range in every direction, thigh swivel, knee bend, all the same ankle articulation. So like, aside from like the missing waist joint and the overly broad shoulders, your shadow can still do all of the cool actiony Batman stuff that you would want your shadow to do. Yeah, so it's still a great looking figure. And the cape is made out of a soft enough material. Like, as you can see, it's very easy to manipulate around. Purple on the inside, black on the outside, nice touch. So yeah, like the cape does not really interfere with his posing. It falls very naturally, and it's, you know, it's just soft enough to get out of the way if you want. Like, it's not a big obtrusive thing that gets in the way. So even though he's a little bit compromised for the light up gimmick, it's still a very good figure. Although, yeah, I probably still am going to get the regular version of him when he comes out single carded. So, the first wave of DC Sonic figures makes a pretty good impression. I can't wait to get the other characters to complete the set. And for the first time ever, I'm actually looking forward to a release of the Sonic characters in the 2.5-inch line, because they'll come with accompanying DC characters that will match them really well. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that too. If I can find them in stores, or if they're available to order, I will bring those to my channel as well. But for now, thank you all for tuning into this video, and this is Wake Angel 2001 signing off.